So would you invite Keir to your pub, Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister?
No, he's banned. He's the first person to be banned. He's actually on a board in the hall. He's banned.
Why? What have you got against him?
Hello?
No suggestion of £40 billion of tax rises in that manifesto, Prime Minister.
We inherited a very badly damaged economy.
Keir Starmer's been in total meltdown mode lately, all thanks to Jeremy Clarkson humiliating him on live TV. I mean, let's be honest. When Clarkson opens his mouth, there's just no place on earth big enough to hide your face.
Well, if you own a farm or land, you have an additional £1 million inheritance tax.
And Starmer literally asked for it. Under his watch, the UK government just dropped a bombshell that could seriously mess with family farms, especially those sitting on valuable land. And come on, Clarkson, being a farmer himself in his own unique way, isn't about to let this guy mess with the backbone of the country.
Well, lots of people will be dead by the time that comes through. What we want to know is in the clause of this Parliament.
I think this is really important.
So, Keir Starmer and his government is under fire, and the heat isn't coming from political rivals. It's coming from farmers and an irate Jeremy Clarkson. Britain's countryside is in uproar after the announcement of a new inheritance tax proposal that could devastate family farms across the nation. And Clarkson, with his signature wit and sharp tongue, has taken the fight straight to the government, exposing just how damaging this policy could be. And here are the types of excuses we are listening.
Yep. And indeed, 73% of farms last year would not pay any inheritance tax at all, even after our changes. And after that next £1 million, there was a 50% discount on inheritance.
It says the controversial proposal slaps a 20% inheritance tax on farm assets over $1 million. It's not about cash, mind you. It targets the core assets that keep farms running: land, buildings and machinery. The fallout from this tax could force countless families to sell off their farms, erasing not just livelihoods, but a way of life.
To what everybody else will pay, and you can pay that inheritance tax over a 10-year period in a way that no one else is able to. So I think we've got the right balance there. We did need to raise taxes to fill the black hole, to put our public finances on a stable footing. We did that yesterday.
Oh, wow. What an explanation from our pretty Rachel Reeves. She means all those generational family-run farms that have been the backbone of rural Britain are not sprawling corporate estates. They're homes, legacies and small businesses deeply tied to the land and the communities they serve. Farming wealth isn't stored in bank accounts. It's tied up in acres of land, tractors, silos and livestock.
Popularity has collapsed more significantly after winning an election than any other Prime Minister in modern history. Is that because you essentially misled the country during the election and you've raised taxes in a way that no one was expecting?
The government's new proposal doesn't seem to care about this reality. By taxing non-cash assets, they're effectively demanding that families either come up with millions in cash, an impossible task for most, or sell their farm to pay the bill. It's a lose-lose scenario, and the numbers are staggering. Nearly 50% of UK farms may have to sell assets or shut down completely to cover these costs.
The right teachers and the right numbers in our schools so every child can go as far as their talents will take them. And making sure that we've got houses that are affordable for everybody across the country.
This would rip apart the fabric of rural life. The effects wouldn't stop at the farm gates. Entire local economies would feel the blow. From suppliers to small businesses, rural communities depend on the survival of family farms.
In the public for 40 billion tax rises, can you at least reassure people there are no more tax rises after this?
Well, I've committed to just have one budget a year. I'm not coming back to this in the spring.
Parliament.
No, I'm not going to make commitments to never change taxes again. That would be irresponsible. But this is a once-in-a-Parliament budget to wipe the slate.
Jeremy Clarkson may be best known for cars and controversy, but farming has become one of his passions since he started running his own farm. And when this inheritance tax policy was unveiled, Clarkson didn't hesitate to take a stand.
So would you invite Keir to your pub, Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister?
No, he's banned. He's the first person to be banned. He's actually on a board in the hall. He's banned.
Why? What have you got against him?
Hello? I thought you were running a news operation.
Furious with what he called a betrayal of farmers, Clarkson has publicly lambasted the government and the National Farmers Union, NFU. He accused the NFU of turning its back on farmers after the organisation cancelled a planned protest over the tax. According to Clarkson, the NFU's decision to back down was nothing short of cowardly, a gutless capitulation that left farmers feeling abandoned.
I'm a family farm. Tell me, how will this affect you? Well, actually, the reason that I'm in London is because as someone with siblings, my father passed away, and we're dealing with inheritance, which obviously a lot of paperwork, a lot of lawyers, takes time. But watching this budget...
But Clarkson's harshest criticism was saved for the government. In his eyes, this policy isn't just a bad decision, it's a complete failure to understand the farming industry. By imposing taxes that many farmers simply cannot afford, the government risks dismantling Britain's agricultural sector and jeopardising the country's food security. This isn't just a crisis for farmers. The consequences of this tax could send shockwaves across the UK, because there are many reasons. Farmers who can't afford the tax will be forced to sell their land. And when farmland goes up for sale, it doesn't always stay farmland. Developers are quick to pounce, turning fields into housing estates. The unique character of rural Britain could be lost, replaced by concrete jungles and suburban sprawl.
Big international pension funds, insurance companies, investment banks. A pension fund in particular will have lots of pension policies. It has to, what we call, meet its liabilities, has to pay out these pensions every month. And a government bond is perfect for that, because it's an investment that goes up in value a little bit, but it pays out what we call a coupon every year.
With fewer farms in operation, the UK will produce less food domestically. This means the country will have to rely more on imported food, which brings higher costs, environmental concerns, and less control over quality. Experts warn this could weaken Britain's food security at a time when global supply chains are already under strain. Farms aren't just businesses, they're lifelines for entire communities. Equipment suppliers, transport companies, and local markets all depend on the success of farming. When farms shut down, these interconnected industries suffer too, creating a domino effect of economic hardship.
Everybody, Scotland, England, Northern Ireland, Wales, you do not need to be an NFU member. This is all farmers, everywhere, uniting to go down and rally down at Westminster.
Farming is a generational business, with families passing down their knowledge, skills, and land through the years. This tax threatens to break that cycle. Younger generations, faced with the prospect of inheriting massive debts, may simply walk away. This would lead to a shortage of farmers and could ultimately decimate the agricultural workforce.
Rees unveiled a monstrous tax hike package.
If the rumblings are true, it looks like British farming is over in Britain. They're on about taking agricultural property relief off land. That will basically devalue land that much. It will make most farming businesses insolvent. It will bankrupt them overnight. We'd had 76, he spent his life.
The National Farmers Union was supposed to be the voice of Britain's farmers, but its decision to cancel a planned protest over the tax has left many in the farming community feeling betrayed. Legal challenges may have played a role in the withdrawal, but the optics couldn't be worse. For farmers, the NFU's retreat felt like abandonment at a critical moment. Clarkson was quick to call them out, accusing the union of failing in its duty to protect the people it represents. With the NFU stepping back, many farmers are now organising independent protests. These grassroots movements are gaining traction, fueled by outrage and a determination to make their voices heard. Rural communities are rallying together, united by a shared goal to stop this tax from destroying their way of life. Behind the statistics and economic arguments, there's a deeply personal side to this story. For many farmers, their land isn't just a workplace, it's their home, their heritage, and their identity. When you are dedicating your entire life to a farm, only to realise that your children can't afford to keep it, the idea of losing something that's been in the family for generations is heartbreaking, and this tax could make that nightmare a reality for thousands of families.
I know that in the community, many of my friends, my colleagues have been saying the same thing, that they are farming, that they have parents who are older, who are slowing down, and they're saying, should I get an office job? Is it worth me continuing to farm? Because under these rules, there is no way that they could afford to keep a farm that's been in their family for generations.
This is why so many are angry. The government's policy doesn't just feel like an economic misstep, it feels like an attack on their very existence. One of the most alarming consequences of this tax is its impact on food security. Britain already relies heavily on imports for certain foods, and a decline in domestic farming would only make this worse. Imported food is often more expensive and less sustainable. It also leaves the UK vulnerable to global market fluctuations and supply chain disruptions. By weakening the country's farming sector, the government is putting its citizens at risk of higher prices and potential shortages. Experts have warned that this could be a tipping point. If the government doesn't rethink its approach, the UK could find itself increasingly dependent on other countries to feed its population.
Everybody, Scotland, England, Northern Ireland, Wales, you do not need to be an NFU member. This is all farmers, everywhere, uniting to go down and rally down at Westminster.
Jeremy Clarkson isn't alone in his criticism. Other public figures, including Jonathan Chelsworth, have joined the chorus of voices condemning the tax. Chelsworth has called out the government for inflicting unnecessary pain on farmers and questioned whether policymakers even understand the realities of rural life. These public figures are playing a crucial role in raising awareness. Their platforms allow them to amplify the concerns of farmers and put pressure on the government to rethink its approach. The battle over this inheritance tax isn't just about money, it's about the future of farming in Britain. Family farms are more than just businesses, they're part of the nation's identity. They represent hard work, resilience, and a connection to the land that spans generations.
I think Starmer's one of the worst prime ministers we've ever had, and he's only been with us 81 days. But look what he's done in those 81 days. He's allowed the Chancellor to go ahead with a scheme where 4,000 pensioners could freeze to death this winter.
But this tax threatens to erase all of that. If it goes through, the consequences will be felt far beyond the farming community. From higher food prices to the loss of rural traditions, the ripple effects will touch every corner of the country. Jeremy Clarkson has made it clear that this fight is far from over. He's calling on farmers, rural communities, and anyone who values Britain's countryside to stand up and make their voices heard.
Plans are fully costed and fully funded. And that means no tax rises for working people. We're not going to be raising tax on working people.
We will not raise taxes on working people.
We're not putting up taxes on working people.
The Labour government will not raise income tax, will not raise national insurance contributions, and will not raise VAT.
We're not going to increase tax on working people, and that means
that Labour will not be putting up taxes on working people.
But no, we don't think that we should be raising taxes on working people.
There'll be no additional taxes on households under a Labour government.
Let me be absolutely clear, we will not raise tax for working people.
Protests are already being planned and the momentum is growing. This isn't just a fight for farmers, it's a fight for the soul of rural Britain. For the government, the message couldn't be clearer. This tax is a disaster and it needs to be scrapped. The livelihoods of thousands of families, the survival of rural communities and the country's food security are all at stake. Jeremy Clarkson's passionate critique of the inheritance tax has shone a spotlight on a policy that many see as deeply flawed. His words have galvanised farmers and rural communities, highlighting the urgent need for change. This isn't just a political issue, it's a matter of survival for Britain's farmers. And as protests grow louder, the government will have to decide, will they listen or will they risk dismantling one of the country's most cherished industries?